follow through with what they've stood in this room promising us that they would do. And if they don't, we can't let, and I hate to say it like this, we can't let the fact that we like them a whole lot stand in the way. Now, we can be polite, we can be honest, we can be respectful and professional, but we can still hold them accountable and kill their bad ideas and support their good ideas. And that's what we try to do. I'll back up just a little bit so you kind of know where I'm coming from. I'm going to go back to PDMP. There was a night, and there's a reason we don't have PDMP here in Missouri, and his name is Senator Rob Schaaf. He's from Buchanan in Platte County, north of Kansas City. That's St. Joe and Kansas City. That's the geography. For years, he has stood up and filibustered PDMP and made sure that it didn't go anywhere, so much so that everybody just kind of assumed that old Rob would kill it again this year. And so nobody was paying attention when Rob felt alone. And he also felt like leadership in the Senate was going to, in his words, steamroll him. He felt he had to compromise. So he called several of the groups over on a Saturday saying, hey, we're going to need your help. We began to help, began to reach out to grassroots, began to do press, to get the word out. And then we were just getting rolling, and Tuesday came along. And his chief of staff pulled me into the office and said, we're compromising. You ever feel like the wind just gets taken out of your sails and the rug pulled out? I mean, right? I felt like that. And it just felt like a kick in the gut and like a big defeat. I was like, well, what are we going to do? Do I really want to be the one, I mean, these things go through your mind. Do I want to be the only one? Well, the truth is, I wasn't the only one that was having these thoughts. But I went home that night, back to the office and then home, feeling demoralized and wondering whether or not we were going to continue with the fight or not. Or, I mean, if Schaaf was going to compromise, what chance did we have? I felt like this. So that morning, it's about 5 a.m., I'd woken up, I drove up to the gym and was sitting outside the gym, and just before I went in, I kind of said one of those quick little, silent, lonely prayers. I'm sure you've done that maybe once or twice yourselves. I did that, and something prompted me to just kind of take a look down at this, and I have a My Bible app on my phone here, as many of you do, I'm sure. And I opened it up just real quick, and I must have been having very recently just read it, but Esther 4:14, my daughters love that story. And so that's probably why it was there. But I mean, I just looked down, turned it on, opened it up, and there it is. Well, 4:14 in Esther is the for such a time as this, if you keep silent now. And we talk about the perfect place, perfect time. Coincidence or not, that was one of those moments where it was just like, I felt like I had my answer. And it was with a lot of, I don't know, trepidation, even fear a little bit, like, okay, we'll fight. I don't know what will come of it, but we'll fight. And we did. We started to fight again. And before too long, we had a lot of senators that were like, oh, okay, yeah, no, we don't necessarily like this. And before too long, we had 10 senators that were with us. Now, none of them were willing to filibuster, but a lot of them were willing to talk for a really long time. And the longer you talk in the Senate floor, the longer things drag out. Well, this was butting up right against spring break, which is a week long where the legislature goes home, thank God, and they can't harm you for a week. We thought this was thing with a fait accompli. And it turns out a day turned into another day, turned into another day, and all of a sudden we made it to spring break and this thing hadn't passed. And it was like, well, it came back from spring break and the Senate was, full court press. We had our 10 and they were fighting. Long story short, it passed the Senate. But it got loaded up with so many amendments in the process. For instance, we got an amendment that exempted children from being part of this database. There was a lot of protections, from it. They also, they put a sunset on it, a 5-year sunset clause, which means that it expires and they'd have to repass it. We got a lot of things on it and made it a bill that the side that did want it didn't all of a sudden want this bill. So it went over to the House and not much happened. And so that's kind of how we killed it. And now we kept a very close eye on it throughout the remainder of the session. But was it a clean kill? No, not really. Was it ugly? Was it? Yeah. Did it work? Yes. Will it come back next year? Yes. That doesn't matter. The other side will never quit. The other side will never, ever stop ceasing to try to take more and more of your liberty. It is the nature of government and people in government to do so. So if the other side never quits, guess what? Neither must we. Neither must we. You cannot vote Republican and then go home and think everything will be okay. You have to hold their feet to the fire constantly, which is why we develop, a scorecard system, which this is our website, and I won't bore you with it tonight. Right now, there would normally be a tab here that says scorecard right in the middle. You don't see it tonight. That's because we're in the process of uploading our 2015 scores, which will be, I'll stop in just a moment.
No, I was going to try to just...
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I thought that was my signal to shut up.
No.
So...
We got a big hook.
But if you sign up, or maybe you're already on our email list, but if you give me your name, we'll make sure that you get uploaded into our email list. And so people who sign up with us, we're going to email you all first the 2015 scores. The scorecard that you have tonight is from 2014. Our 90+ percenters are typically what we call our champions of freedom. And we grade on a lot of bills. This year we graded on almost 30 bills per chamber. We do things across the issue spectrum and try to pull the seminal bills from the session in order to do that. But so we'll do everything from life and guns, which says a couple things. One, I'm pro-life. Two, I'm pro-gun, as our good friend right here with the shirt. Probably I need to get one of those. Molon labor, come and take it. So, I like that attitude, by the way. So anyway, we'll grade on that. And we have, in what I'll call a Republican Party, we have a life and a guns party right now. Okay, you can self-identify as a Republican and as a conservative if you are pro-life and pro-gun. Well, that's great. I'm as pro-life and as pro-gun as they come, and I think that those two are fundamental, and they're fundamental for a reason. And if you're wrong in those two, normally you get everything else wrong thereafter. However, I think we've proven, and I won't go through it with tonight, that you can be pro-life and pro-gun and still wrong on an awful lot of other issues that matter. So when we graded on a life and a gun bill, most of your Republican legislators last session did really well on those two bills. But it was issues of crony capitalism, for instance, where a lot of them fell off, or tax increases versus tax cuts where they fell off. What do I mean by crony capitalism? Taking your money, giving it to a private company or corporation, or giving them special tax incentives or tax credits or something like that to encourage that business to come here, for instance, or to prop one business up over another. It's not the role of government. It's not a free market system, and we'll oppose it every single time until Missouri has a real free economy, which you and I, our children, our grandchildren deserve. So we grade on a lot of bills like that, and that's where we lose a lot of our Republican friends, because even our Republican Party right now seems to believe in practice, based on voting record. I'm not saying this I'm not just pulling this out of the sky, but based on their voting record, seems to believe that taking your money and giving it to private industry equates to what they call economic development or creating jobs. We fundamentally disagree, and we think that we need a longer-term solution and approach. You always hear them come through here, and they talk about leveling the playing field, making it fair for everybody, but they don't necessarily follow through, and oftentimes those are just talking points. So you can actually click here where it says see all, or if Keith English were your state rep, you could click on his name, and then you get a whole profile page of Keith English and how he voted and on what bills this last session, where he went awry, why he got 38%. And so there's a lot of stuff like that. This floor report section will typically be bills that we're following, or the bills that we graded on. And so this year, since we'll have 2 years, there'll be a 2014 and a 15 tab. So we try to make this as user-friendly as possible so that you can go in here and get information. If you all ever have any ideas, like, man, I wish this was on his website, you have my card now, right? Please email me or text me or call me and give me your suggestion. If it's a good one, we'll likely implement it.
I'll give you one real quick. If they vote for a tax increase, they start at 50% and go down.
I remember you saying that. So what we do is we try, so our weighting scale is pretty simple. Let's say we have 30 bills. You vote with our recommendation, you get a point. You vote against our recommendation, you get 0 points. A lot of organizations where we differ is how they treat absences. So sometimes with an absence, it won't count for or against. Well, we didn't think that that counted or was fair to the people that walked on a vote. So let's say a controversial vote, like right to work. Right to work is another huge issue that we pushed on this year, and it passed, thankfully. And now we're going to see whether or not the Republican legislature can override it. A lot of people, legislators, think that by just getting up and walking out of the chamber and not actually casting a vote on that contentious issue will help them save face. Well, I was just absent. I missed the vote. You know, I didn't vote for or against it. So therefore, he or she won't upset this, this set or this set. Well, we don't think that that's leadership. We believe that they were elected and put in office and paid to vote and to provide leadership. So if you walk on a vote, you're going to get 0 points with us. Now let's say...
Can I bring up a point?
Yes, sir.
Right there's a problem. They are not our leaders. We are their leaders.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
We elected them to serve us.
That's right.
Not for us to serve them.
That's right.
And we have to keep reminding them of that.
That's right. They work for us. Absolutely. Yep.
But when you call them leaders, you're giving them authority, and they don't. They're not supposed to have it. It's we the people that has the authority.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So they have a job to do, and their job is to vote and to represent you and I. And when they walk on a vote with us, they get 0 points. Now, if you're the state representative and you were absent on one of the votes that we scored, and it was because someone was in the hospital or you were sick or you had to go to a funeral, we excuse that. We want to be fair, but we also want to be firm. If you take what I call the Obama vote and you vote present, you also get 0 points with us. So it's a pretty tough scorecard to do well on. So if someone gets a 90+% or even an 80+%, they're doing pretty good. There was a lot of C and D students on our scorecard, especially within the Republican Party. So we try to provide that information and get that back out. And then, like I said, we're in the business of trying to help organize people as well. So if you liked anything that you've heard tonight and want to sign up with us, want to help volunteer with us to keep an eye on your state representative or your state senator, we can use all the help that we can get. If you want to agree to take ownership of your legislative district, and there can be more than one of you that decides to do that, please sign up for it. You can go to the Get Involved tab here, and you can check a couple boxes and say, I'd like to keep an eye on my legislative district for you guys and help develop a relationship with my state rep or my state senator. That is incredibly meaningful. And then we're going to come back down here, I think August 22nd, and do a little 4-hour workshop. And again, that's the one that I mentioned earlier. That is probably kind of a nice addendum to Brian's classes. It's focused, like I said, exclusively on the Missouri legislature, how to navigate it, but how a bill is really passed, how to navigate the Senate, how to navigate the House, and probably most importantly, how to kill a bill. It's four very quick segments. We try to provide a little bit of food for it's like normally 9 to 1, so we try to provide a little bit of food for breakfast and coffee and a little bit of food for a light working lunch and get you in and get you out of here. But you'd be more than welcome to come to that. It's free. So, like I said, you're welcome to join us for that. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that I went to that. Susie and I did. It was very informative, very interesting, and it helped us tremendously when we went to Jeff City to get involved with a certain issue that we're working on. It was very informative, and it worked really well with our CSG training.
Perfect.
It was just excellent.
So take Brian's class first, and then come to ours on August 22nd, and you'll be ready to go next session. Yes, sir.
Question and recommendation.
Please.
Do you vet the bills that you're looking at other than saying we are for or against them from a standpoint of explaining them in layman's terms? Because as you know, they're not.
No, you're right.
Sometimes they're very hard to discern what they really say.
We have a, sorry.
And then, that's right. And then if you did, do you do it in layman's term and the reasoning pro and con why you would be for or against that? it's something that we do as a group
Yeah, let me
at some
try.
of our meetings, and if not, recommendation that you do, because we look at how scorecards go from several organizations,
Mhm.
but the recommendation is not necessarily backed up with the reasoning behind it.
If this will cooperate with me. So on our floor reports section, we'll have a list of bills that we've graded on. And so it'll very quickly, if you will click on it, if it'll pull it up, you can take it, it'll be in a list format, then you can click on, let's say HB 116, which was the right to work bill. And you can then click on that, and it'll open it up, and in about just like a quick paragraph,
It's the library.
I'll put to look at what you're talking.
let's see, I
I get that out.
I'm online.
You can't find the library.
No, the library, back down in their service, so it's really hard to stay connected.
Well, this is connected through my cellular service, so it
Well, you can pick up theirs.
should be good. Well, I can explain it real quick. I don't want to. But the point is we try to do that. So you can click on HB 116. You will see very quickly that this is a right to work bill in layman's terms. It'll say the author, Representative Eric Burleson. It'll, in about a paragraph or less, really just try to summarize the bill in layman's terms, so that you don't have to read through 3 or 5 pages of thick language. And then it'll say we recommend to support, or we recommend oppose. And it'll give like a sentence, maybe 2 sentences why, very quickly. And if you want more information, email us or call us, but we try not to take up too much so people can just grab information off of our site.
Super.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to double check, when you do the summary, do you use the bill summary that's provided by Jeff City, or do you write your own?
Most of the times we write our own in layman's terms.
Because we're finding that the summary isn't always
Yeah.
exact to what
Yeah.
your bill is.
Right, that's very true. We
Yeah.
try to weed through say it for you.
They
So
forget,
that
they
we
forget
can-
parts of it. I know it's in good faith, but
Yeah, no, we try to wade through that stuff for you and at least
Okay.
describe it. Like I said, there might be a bill out there that you're following that we're not, and if you want us to investigate it further, again, call me, email me, we're happy to help. But like I said, there's 2,000 plus bills filed, a couple hundred of which will pass. We cannot physically follow them all. We followed about 300 almost, roughly, throughout the course of session, and ended up probably taking action on about 50 or so. Some of those, like a PDMP or a right to work, we fought for vigorously, while others we just kind of watched. After about a year or so of doing this, you'd be surprised. I'm surprised at times, but we're starting to have an impact. And we're starting to have an impact because we come to places like this and talk about what your local legislators do. We send out our scorecard to an email list of thousands of Missourians who have signed up for our emails. And legislators know that. And a lot of legislators respond, and it's good and bad, out of fear. It's true. So for instance, there was this tow truck bill that we were opposed to. It didn't get a vote, so we didn't necessarily score on it. And if you're thinking, well, tow truck bill, why is that interesting at all? And it's not really. But if you read the bill, it actually said if you want to have a tow truck company, then you have to be open for so many hours, and you have to have a sign and a fence, and you have to have someone staffing the office from this time to this. I mean, it was just, what is it the role of state government to tell you how to run your tow truck company? And we said, well, this is wrong. So we just basically sent out a quick little e-blast to the senators who were getting ready to talk about it on the floor. So one email, and then we sent out a tweet about it. And then they shelved it. Okay, great. Move on down the road. So I'm actually driving home that night, and the lobbyist, who is a friend of mine, who was a lobbyist for this tow truck bill, I didn't know that at the time, he's actually our landlord too, sends me a text message and he's like, you killed my tow truck bill. It's like, what are you talking about? And I said, we sent out an email and a tweet. What do you mean we killed it? He said, well, they're not letting it go anywhere. Well, good. And he just said, he let me know that he was a lobbyist for it, and we had a fun kind of back and forth very quickly, but that bill didn't go any further. this year. And, you know, that's a good thing. If you can kill a small little bad bill like that with an email and a tweet, you're starting to make, you know, a little bit of progress.
Why was he proposing such a bill? What was his special interest?
You know what? I
He
never.
was getting paid.
Right, the lobbyist was getting paid. Who his client was, I'm not really, you know,
Probably another
100%
tow truck
certain.
business, huh?
What's that?
Probably another tow truck business.
Probably a bigger tow truck.
Yeah,
A bigger
yeah,
one.
maybe
but
so.
probably
Insurance
that's what
company.
they like to do.
Didn't want any small competition.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I didn't delve that far into it, and we just kind of kept moving. But yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Who was the special interest behind it? Who was paying his fee? That's the way a lot of this works. There's a leadership and a lobbyist nexus down there in both chambers, as anybody that's spent any time down there has experienced. You have an army of lobbyists down there, quite literally, and they all get paid and dress in suits and speak very well and are articulate and persuasive and friendly. So that's kind of the big issue. So they will go into an office and they'll develop a relationship, and all of a sudden it's not lobbyist and legislator, it's a couple of friends. And they're talking about the Cardinals or kids or, you know, life and all those kinds of things. And that's how they're able to kind of advance an agenda that's not always in your best interest. And these lobbyists are paid very well to advance an agenda of a company, of a corporation, of a trade association, of believe it or not, a bureaucracy. A lot of the bureaucracies have their own lobbyists, taxpayer-funded lobbyists. Should that be legal? No, I don't think so. So something else to fight. But that's part of the ingrained culture down there. So, okay, yeah, this is our floor reports page. So you can see, yeah, this is 2015, okay? If you wanted to do what 14, you could tab that. But let's see if we can find a, do you mind?
Go right ahead.
Let's see here. We'll just grab one on top here and see what. So this one is very, looks like it's short and sweet. Let's see here. So HB 684, maybe a little bit longer, but you can see the sponsor establishes the Supporting and Strengthening Families Act, so you can get an idea.
Sounds bad.
What's that?
That sounds bad. How are you gonna strengthen families?
How is government, maybe government getting out of the way would strengthen families, right?
Yeah.
So, but you can get a sense of what we, you know, what we looked at on our website here. Who mentioned Keith Carmichael?
I did.
Let's see, was this his? Yeah, this was the Convention of States legislation, so which we generally supported, which I know is kind of a contentious issue, but and there's HB 116 in here somewhere, which was right to work. But you can kind of scroll through that on your own time, and again, feel free to agree or disagree. And if you want to call me and argue about it, let me know. I'll be happy to take your call. But we try to provide as much information. If you click here, you'll see kind of the principles of evaluation. I can click on that real quick, and I won't bore you with it tonight, but if you're interested at all. So there's a lot of things that kind of go into what we're thinking about when we're reading through a bill, as you can see. They're kind of just a series of what we kind of came up with in terms of liberty principles, where we feel like we apply questions that we want to ask ourselves as we're reading through a bill. No scorecard is perfect to include the one that we develop. It doesn't account for all the nuance and all the things that happens behind the scenes, the horse trading and so on and so forth. The human factor is just taking a kind of really a snapshot in time of a series of votes. And again, attempting to, I'm not saying definitively, but attempting to kind of collect all those votes from the session and try to grab some of the seminal bills. Both the ones that were really out front, like PDMP, which was a huge public fight, or a right to work, to everything from a now here's a C student, so. This was 14, so a lot of legislators we lost in that December. There was a December 2013 bill, special session, to give Boeing a whole bunch of money, $1.7 billion of your money, to encourage them to come to St. Louis. We disagreed with that. We'll also do, and please don't hit play, but we'll also do weekly video updates from the Capitol, which obviously there's no need to do that anymore until the next session. But we try to give you a lot of content, and a lot of things to kind of wade through and information to sort through. We try to make it as user-friendly as possible to let you know what's going on in Jefferson City, what the real-time fights are and are not. And then in the meantime, we're going to come out here in what we call the interim between the sessions and try to help educate and train and to organize people. And I mean, so it's a pretty simple dual-pronged strategy. Lobbying on one hand, lobbying for liberty on one hand, and grassroots organization, you know, on the other hand. But it seemed to work so far. And with that, you know, like I indicated, there's a whole lot of work in here. But the reason that we do what we do, the reason that I do what I do, and you'll hear this from a lot of elected officials, and I don't mean to parrot them, but like I said before, you know, I'm legitimately worried for the first time in my life that my kiddos won't be as free as I will. And so I was blessed enough to be able to find funding for an organization like this, to be able to sustain that now for a couple of years, and to be able to do really what I love to do on a full-time basis, and be able to give one other person a job doing it, who also loves to do this.
Who do you work with?
Jeremy Cady, who actually used to work for the Missouri Republican Party as our legislative director. He was also Shane Scholer's chief of staff in the House of Representatives for about 3 years when Shane Scholer was the pro tem in the House. So,
C-A-K-A-K.
C-A-D-Y, yeah, good guy, really good guy. Newly married, devout Christian, you know, believer in all the principles that we kind of talked about tonight. So, and he knows the House and has good relationships in the House. And I would bring him down here with me on the 22nd, but he'll be on vacation that weekend. So I'm going to have to find someone else to cover his spot.
Where's your class on the 22nd?
Is it here?
Yes.
It's here.
Are you guys bringing them here, or
The tea party.
we are?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
are.
Brian, remember when we voted on that?
I'm the chair.
When
Probably
Brian was
right
when
in
we
this
voted on
room.
that.
What's that?
Probably right in this room.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah,
probably be-
right here.
Okay, right here. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm
No, we're
looking
excited.
forward to it. You know, like I said, I wasn't raised, you know, with any of this stuff. So in addition to discovering Christ, I also discovered this guy that you all elected president named Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about him that much in my house growing up. But so as an adult, I went back and looked at some of his writings and watched some of the videos and those kinds of things. I was 5 years old when he was inaugurated, first inauguration in '81. And, you know, I remember now having read and watched that first inaugural speech, which was an incredible speech. If you haven't watched it recently, it's on YouTube, and the text is obviously, as well as some of the videos on the Reagan Foundation website. Just an incredibly motivating and just wonderful speech, full of just great content. But what he really hit in that speech was not, you know, America's greatness and the reasons that we're great and the reasons that we've enjoyed, you know, success, because freedom has been more available here than it has been any other place. But he also talks directly about activism. And you remember, you know, he's coming in on the heels of Carter, where the nation is demoralized and the word malaise is used, and it's kind of how we maybe feel now. After only, instead of 4 years, it's been 8
On
years.
steroids.
It's like Carter's third term, right? And 4. So I just found it very, I don't know, very appropriate for the time, you know, that we're living in. And so it's the first time that a president, after inauguration, is giving the speech on the western side of the Capitol. So, you know, in his view is the mall and the Washington Monument, and beyond the Washington Monument is the Lincoln Memorial. And kind of to your left, my wife is from there, and we just got back from visiting family and walking the whole area. And you know, having to get into serve in the honor guard in that area was a great privilege as a young man. But that's his view, okay? And so he's talking about the monuments and the monumental men, talking about our founders. And he says, beyond the monuments is the Potomac River. And across the Potomac River are the sloping hills of Arlington National Cemetery, with its row upon row of simple white markers bearing stars of David and crosses, or crosses and stars of David. This is the president speaking. And then he says, under each one of those markers is a hero, like I had talked about earlier. And their lives ended at places like the Argonne, Bellewood, Salerno, halfway around the world at Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Pork Chop Hill, the Chosin Reservoir, and 100 rice paddies and jungles in a place called Vietnam. And then he said, under one such marker lies a man named Martin Treptow. That Martin Treptow left a small town and a job as a barber in 1917 to go to France, what he called the famed Rainbow Division. And that Martin was killed under heavy artillery fire carrying a message between two battalions. And when they recovered his body, they found a diary. And on the flyleaf of that diary was written under the heading, My Pledge, America must win this war. Therefore I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure, I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost, as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone. And I would suggest to each and every one of you here tonight that America, we find ourselves in a war of ideas. And to the extent that each one of us keeps a diary, even if it's just a diary right up here between your two ears, that we might want to adopt that writing for each one of ourselves. That I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure, I will fight cheerfully, and do my utmost as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone. And President Reagan offered that as the solution. It is the substance, it is the core of this thing that we call American exceptionalism. It's why you're here tonight. It's why you're here week after week, month after month. It's why you're in the fight, and it's why you have to stay in the fight. Because only with that attitude will you and I win. But if we keep that attitude, and we adopt the mentality that we will never quit, we will never falter, we will never fail, then we will win. Because our ideas are better, because they're better for people. And they create opportunity, they create growth, prosperity, and the ability to fulfill the American dream. And by God, it is worth fighting for. It was worth hundreds of thousands of our young men and women dying for, and I will be damned if I'm going to let their sacrifice be in vain, not on my watch. So I thank you so much for having me down here tonight. I thank you for being in the fight. If you want to sign up with us, great. If you don't, but want to sign up with another group or just stay really involved with your Tea Party, God bless you for doing it. I'm so thankful you're here tonight, and next time bring 2 or 3 friends with you. So I'll take any questions, but just thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And Madam President,